They had courted for a year, finally getting married, even though they had a 37-year gap between them. He knew he loved her and would do anything to see her smile. But when she told him she wanted them to have a child of their own, he knew storm clouds were circling over their future. Finding one's soulmate can be a challenging endeavor, especially with how many people there are in the world today. With more than 4 billion adults to pick from, it becomes a little daunting to root out the one you were meant to call yours forever. For Kieran McCain, the idea of a soulmate was something he had always looked forward to. He did not know when it would happen or what fruits it would bring to his life. He only closed his eyes and took a leap of faith. Kieran was only 15 when he first met Cheryl McGregor, a self-driven young man. Kieran worked at a Dairy Queen in Rome, Georgia. Kieran and Cheryl did not kick it off immediately. Kieran only saw Cheryl, who was 52, drive by in her blue Carrera whenever she came to visit her son, who was Kieran's manager. Kieran did not think much about Cheryl, only noting that she was always smiling. Little did he know that the universe was offering him a sneak peek at his future. Kieran eventually switched jobs, leaving behind his post at the Dairy Queen for greener pastures. The years went by, 9 to be exact. And soon after, Kieran found himself in the arms of Cheryl. He could not believe his luck. He only remembered his weeks blending into months, which ended with his marriage to Cheryl. But such a happy ending brought with it a massive problem. Cheryl wanted a child with Kieran, telling him that even though she already had 7 children, most of whom were older than Kieran himself, she wanted one they could call their own. The pair decided to try getting pregnant, but to no avail. They found out that Cheryl's body could not conceive, let alone sustain a pregnancy given her advanced years. The couple was devastated. Kieran spent many days wondering how he could solve their problem. His love for Cheryl could not allow him to watch her suffer. He began scouring the internet, books and television shows, searching for ways he and his wife could successfully conceive. He couldn't find anything. On the verge of giving up, something unexpected came his way. Kieran learned of the possibility of surrogacy and adoption, procedures that would allow him and Cheryl to have a child. Overjoyed, he rushed to share the news with her. Cheryl hugged him tightly, thanking him for all the happiness he had brought into her life. She delightfully agreed to look into both procedures, but it wasn't long before another issue popped up. Kieran and Cheryl had begun fleshing out their plan to populate their house with kids. As someone who grew up in a warm, loving family, Kieran wanted the same for the young one who was to come into their life. But the couple needed to find a surrogate. Cheryl immediately thought of her daughters, but there was a problem. Cheryl's daughters had hysterectomies, a discovery that crushed Cheryl and Kieran. All the time they spent planning and building expectations now seemed for naught. But even though the news threatened to break these two, they did not bend an inch. They doubled down and continued their research, discovering that someone outside Cheryl's family could become their surrogate. Cheryl and Kieran immediately set off to find the perfect surrogate to help bring their child into the world. Even though they were excited about the prospect of surrogacy, they still had a lot to learn. And the more they learned about the procedure, the more they feared taking it as a path to parenthood. There was one part in particular that didn't sit well with Kieran. Kieran learned that some surrogate mothers found it difficult to let go of the child after delivery. The fear of not bonding with his child also welled within him, and he began second-guessing the procedure. The people in Kieran's city were also beginning to take notice of his marriage to Cheryl. Their society fixated on the age difference between the two, bringing the entire world's attention to Kieran and Cheryl, another problem for them to deal with. The world termed Kieran's bond to Cheryl as fake, with people claiming that he involved himself in Cheryl's life because of money. The negativity brought a storm over their relationship, but the two promised to focus on what they wanted the most, a child they could call their own. Cheryl reassured Kieran of their love, reminding him of what he meant to her and how she had never known what she was experiencing. She reminded him that adoption was also on the table if surrogacy did not work. Kieran and Cheryl drowned out the voices telling them they weren't meant for each other. They continued their quest to have a child, uncovering all the issues that might crop up with surrogacy and adoption. But as the reality of having a child loomed closer, Another issue that Curran had been dreading for a while was barreling toward him. With a 37-year gap between them, it was clear that Cheryl did not have as much time in the world as Curran did. He broke down thinking about a world without her, a home without her warm, loving presence. How would he raise their child alone without her help and guidance? Depressed by the matter, Curran shared his thoughts with Cheryl, to which she smiled softly and pecked his cheek. She told him that she was here to stay and was not going anywhere. With the future looking brighter than ever, Curran sat down with Cheryl. He stared into her eyes, seeing the young soul within her elderly body. A loving smile birthed across his face, and he took her soft hands in his. He did not say anything to her, only silently thanked the world that he had met his soulmate. It is something that most across the globe will never experience.